with Sarah Drew, who is one of the stars and the executive producer of the film. And after watching the movie, which everyone should go see, it's very heartfelt and it's great also to kind of get an inside look at what it's like to be part of a family that is involved in the military. So Sarah touched on some things about being part of the movie, and she also talked about leaving Grey's Anatomy, which if you were an April fan like I was, you will understand how sad she was to leave. She did not want to leave. Her character was actually written off. She talks about that and also about what she told her children as they saw her so upset getting the news that she was not going to be on the show that she had been on for 9 years. So anyways, here's a few clips from the interview and also more about the movie.
So my father's a minister, so the element of faith is always a big kind of truth in my life and an overarching umbrella under which I live. So that resonates with me deeply. I think the main reason I chose to do this film is that I really saw my own marriage mirrored in the Turner family marriage. I went through a really dark time in my marriage a few years into my marriage, about 5 years in, where I felt totally hopeless and felt like there was no way out and felt really, really unhappy and came very close to parting ways. And it was a very dark and sad time. And I remember calling my dad, and my dad saying to me, just because something feels hopeless doesn't mean that it is hopeless. It's been a really lovely transition. I mean, I'm human, so it's been painful also, for sure, being let go. But it was also very exciting because producing this film, I got completely bit by all of the bugs, like all the directing bugs, all the producing bugs. I just felt a real sense of that I was sort of living out of my created self when I got to be in a position of leadership, when I got to set the tone on the set and learned how to lead and thought about all the different elements that went into the creation of story and the character journeys and the acting and the set pieces and just all the things. It was so exhilarating. And actually, when I was shooting Indivisible, I called Debbie Allen, who is in charge of all the directors over at Grey's, and I said I'd love to start shadowing and just learn how to direct because I'm really interested. And she said, well, we actually have this 6-part web series that we would love for someone, in the family to direct. So do you want to do those? And I was like, okay, yes, I do. I'm just going to say yes. And Chandra Wilson, who plays Bailey on Grey's Anatomy, actually, I shadowed her on episode 3 last season, and to prepare to direct. And I directed these 6 webisodes, and then they were nominated for an Emmy just about like a couple months after I got let go. So it's very interesting. There's I'm really kind of beginning to step into this new role of leadership, and it all kind of came through starting on the position of Indivisible. So it's exciting. I have a tremendous support system. I think I'm someone, community is like oxygen for me. I have to have my people in my life, and I have to have people who are willing to tell me the truth. I cannot surround myself with people who just say what I want to hear. I need to hear hard truth. And a lot of the people that surrounded me, especially when I was in my dark place in my marriage, were saying things that I didn't want to hear because there were some things that I needed to face in myself that I wasn't willing to face. And so I was grateful for that support system. But now I mean, I have friends that are like, I just had a little birthday celebration, and I had thank you thank you. I had like my closest girls come, and so many of them I've known for 9 years, like for like the whole time I've lived here in LA, and they're still my closest people. And they like met their friends and their core group of people like in my backyard at a barbecue. And I will say that the biggest like spirit killer is isolation, I think. And the more people can bear witness to what's going on in your world and help you not feel so alone, I think the more joy you'll be able to find. I've always lived my life in a space of recognizing that today is the gift that I've been given, and every moment that I breathe in another breath of air is something that I'm not creating myself. It's something that's been given to me. So, there's great freedom actually in recognizing that we don't have control over that, and learning how to just say thank you for the moments that we are given. The main reason I chose to do this film is that I really saw my own marriage mirrored in the Turner family marriage. I went through a really dark time in my marriage a few years into my marriage, about 5 years in, where I felt totally hopeless and felt like there was no way out, and felt really, really unhappy, and came very close to parting ways. And it was a very dark and sad time. And I remember calling my dad, and my dad saying to me, just because something feels hopeless doesn't mean that it is hopeless. And then he told me, you get into counseling, and I'm going to call you every day for the next 5 days, and you need to have set up an appointment by the end of this week. And I'm so grateful that he did, because in that room with my husband and with our therapist, I discovered so many things that I'd been carrying and burdens that I had that I didn't know how to work through. And this was the first time I learned how to communicate about them. And we came out the other side in just this much more brilliant light, and with a friendship and a marriage that I never knew was possible. And so when I read the script, I felt so drawn to the Turner story, because they felt this tremendous sense of hopelessness. And then when they had the courage to reach out and ask for help and do the work, they got to come out at the other side in a much more brilliant light too. The biggest thing for me, which I think actually resonates with the military families that you saw up on the screen, is that there is a sense of feeling like you need to hold everything together. And there's a lot of shame. Like these soldiers come home feeling a lot of shame that they feel like they can't hold everything together. They can't communicate to their spouses about what's going on. And in my experience, I felt like I had to be successful at marriage. That's what I felt. I don't know where I got that. I don't know why it was there, but it was there. And I think women in general feel the need to keep everything together and stay on top of everything and fix everything and put on a happy face. And we just do that, and I was doing that in my marriage, and I was covering up a lot of pain underneath, and I was too embarrassed to admit that things didn't feel right. And for me, what I learned in therapy was ultimately that I didn't know how to communicate what I needed, and I didn't know how to receive what my husband was giving me. Like, we had very different love languages, so he thought he was giving me
different love languages.
Yeah.
Explain that.
Yeah, well, my husband is someone who loves people through action, through presence and through action. Like, he'll show up, he'll go to the grocery store and pick out the things that he knows you love, and then bring them home to you without you asking for them. It's all these acts of kindness and love. The way that I receive love primarily is through verbal affirmation, but he didn't do a lot of verbal affirmation. He did a lot of action. And so he would do these things for me, but it wouldn't hit. I wouldn't feel it. I wouldn't hear it. And so I kept feeling like, why aren't you telling me why you love me? You must not really love me, and I must not be, valuable or lovable or beautiful in your eyes, because I'm not hearing enough of the words, which is the way that I receive. And so for us, it was really learning about, how do you love? How do you give it? How do you receive it? How do I love? How do I give it? How do I receive it? And then learning how to adjust each other so that we can actually feel what the other person is giving us. And that's a lot of, and the other very big thing was just communication stuff. Like, we learned the script of, when you do this, it makes me feel this way. And then the other person has to stop before defending themselves and go, when I did this, it made you feel that way? Yes. Okay, well, I'm so sorry I made you feel this way. Can I now explain to you what I meant when I said that thing? And now when you feel validated and your emotions are being heard, then you're able to actually hear what was actually going on. And so that was also a big thing. Just
I was
learning
gonna
that
say,
script.
like, I'll come to you for
Yeah.
relationship help now. But we're good now. But I'm just saying, it's work, right?
It's work, and that script was super weird and clunky at first, but then it became more natural, and then as we started using that, I realized that so many of the times when I felt like he was hurting my feelings, it was all something completely different and not at all what I thought. But I didn't.
We make up stories.
We spin and we create narratives, and we've decided somebody feels some way about us when actually they don't. You just have to stop for a second and listen and talk, you know?
Right.
So
this was all before you had kids.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so then you were able to come back together.
Yes.
And start a family.
Yes, we were able to come back together and start a family and learn how to, like, the very unique. That's the thing about any partnership or any marriage, is that you're learning how to live with someone who is other than you, who just expresses themselves differently, who communicates differently. And when we did the work to figure out how to do that, I could then see him and appreciate him for all of the otherness that he is, and he could do the same for me, and it didn't become conflict, it became harmony. And we both are big believers in storytelling and sharing stories, because sharing stories is how you build bridges and create empathy and allow people into your journey, that might end up helping someone else in their journeys. Cool. Well, right now, I mostly just want to go into another era. That's what I want to do. I want to go play in, like, a corset, or or on, like, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, or
Isn't that amazing?
oh my gosh, I'm obsessed with that show. I think it would be really, really fun. I think generally what I feel passionate about is that I want to put things out into the world that are going to uplift rather than depress. But there are tons of stories with a lot of intensity and darkness in them that still have that kind of uplifting, asking questions, making people think, making people feel, bringing people to a place of healing. I would go super dark to tell a good story that could bring someone into a place of healing.
Great question.
Indvisible comes out on October 26th, and you should definitely go see it. Also, I have to say, I love when I interview celebrities and they are just as nice as you would hope they are, and Sarah Drew definitely was.